Hi, this is Eric Martin, news editor with Board Game Geek, and unless you've been living under a rock for the past year, rock with sound dampening technology that is, you will probably have heard of Seiji Kanai's Love Letter. Okay? It's a small game with 16 cards, published in the US by AEG and in Japan by designer Seiji Kanai. Your goal in Love Letter, in case you really haven't heard of it, is you either want to eliminate everyone else in the game, or you want to be holding the highest card, preferably the princess, when the deck runs out. The deck is only 16 cards. The game does not last that long. Right? Each round is, a couple of minutes, and the player who wins a certain number of preset rounds wins the game. A lot of the fun comes as the rounds continue and you progressively build upon what came before, and I have to determine whether someone is bluffing now when they were bluffing last time, or whether they're not this time, or whether I can decipher what I didn't decipher the past couple of times. And sort of the fun of the game builds up between the rounds as you add all these moments together. It's not necessarily each individual round, but the concretization of all of it. So that was 2012 though. Old hat. For 2013, we've got Lost Legacy, and this is a co-design by Seiji Kanai and Hayato Kisaragi. And Mr. Kisaragi sent me a copy of this game in advance. It debuted at the April 2013 Tokyo Game Market. And what's going on inside this? A tiny little box. You didn't expect a tiny little box. Well, you got Japanese rules. You've got English rules. You've got a Japanese crib sheet for the cards in the game. Now, the cards here, like taking out a sword. You actually have two sets of 16 cards. This is actually two games in one. Yes, we always want to say that, don't we? You are trying to win the game that plays out somewhat like Love Letter. Okay, we've got cards numbered 1 to 8 with a couple of X's. And you are either trying to eliminate everyone else from the round, or instead of having the highest card this time, you are trying to identify the location of a particular card in the game. So, as I mentioned, the game comes with two sets of 16 cards, and they have little icons here to show you what set they belong to. There's a starship and there's a garden. And they recommend the starship as the starting set for the game, what you try first. Okay, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a couple of 6s, 7s, 8s, and 3 X's. Now, what you're trying to find is card number 5. This is the Lost Legacy itself. Okay, you have to identify who holds this card, or rather, you have to identify the location of this card at the end of the game in order to win. Or, of course, you have to eliminate everyone else. So, what do the other cards do? Well, they, of course, let you possibly eliminate other people based on what they're doing, whether you can guess what they have, whether you can force them to do things that they don't necessarily want to do. Okay? The gameplay is Love Letter in that you hold a hand of one card. On a turn, you draw a second card, and you play one of those two cards. You play the cards in front of you, you carry out their effects. The cards include text in Japanese and English. Very, very tiny English. A little hard to see on here. What's new in Lost Legacy, aside from the goal of trying to find something instead of just have the highest card when the game ends, or of course eliminate other people, which is the same, what's new is that you have a play area called the Ruins. Each person starts again with a hand of one card, and one card is placed in the Ruins. And other cards can be added to the Ruins during the game, where you can look at cards in the Ruins, you can swap hands in the Ruins, you can shuffle the Ruins, which would otherwise stay as organized. And that gives you additional play area while you're also trying to decipher what other people have and eliminate them from play. Okay? And ideally end up as the only person left in the game, in which case you win immediately. If that doesn't happen, if the deck runs out, then what happens is you look at who has the lowest card who's still in the game. Okay? Who has a 1? Anyone a 1? Have a 2, have a 3, and the cards are all face up, so mostly you know which cards are in play and which aren't. Who has a 3? Who has a 4? Whoever has that lowest card is going to say, I have the 1, here it is, and you have the Lost Legacy. You. Yes, you. And that person, you look at their card. If they do, you win. If not, you go to the next person. Who has a 3, who has a 4, who has a 5. If two people each have the same number, 2 6s, then they don't get to guess. Someone has an X, they don't get to guess. So part of the game as well is trying to make sure you have low cards so that you can guess more, but typically the low cards have better powers, so you want to play them during the game to get the powers. Except, of course, for the number 1, which if you play it, then you lose. If anyone sees that card, you lose. So if someone tries to out you with a curse, and they look at your card, well, you're out anyway, no matter what they said. So that's the risk of holding onto the card to be able to take an early guess. Alright, there's a little bit more going on, because in addition to eliminating people, you now have that deductive element on top of that, right? So it's clue plus love letter, with the bluffing that goes on in the original game, but now a little bit more, as you're trying to decipher what people have. If no one finds the Lost Legacy, then you all lose. Okay, what's the penalty for playing? Play again, I guess. I don't know if that's a penalty or not, but that's what has happened. And then you have an additional deck of 16 cards. And what is this? Well, it's the exact same game, except that all the card powers are different. So it's pretty interesting because you already know the game, right? Draw one card, play one card, do that power, try to eliminate other people, try to find out who has the Lost Legacy. Except now all the powers are different. So in the basic game, although it's not really basic because they're sort of the same, in the basic game, if someone sees the 1, you're out of the game. In this one, if you play the 1 in front of you and you would be outed from the game, you get to turn the 1 face down and continue in the game with a new hand. Okay? In the basic game, the X's blow up on someone and eliminate them instead of you. In this game, if you get 2 X's face up in front of you, those are wounds and you lose. You are out of the game. Okay? So you don't want to play them because then you're out of the game, but you also don't want to hold them because if you hold an X, then you can't guess. Alright. There's tricky stuff here. But there are ways to, again, bury cards in the ruins or give them to other people. There's a card in the second set that lets you take a card that's already been discarded and mix it into the ruins. So now you can heal yourself of your wounds. Get through there. In the second set, if the Lost Legacy, which is again number 5, if that gets played, it's shuffled into the ruins. Alright, so now you have to go digging it out again. Plus there are additional cards that put more stuff in the ruins in the second set, which makes it a little harder. You gotta decipher what's going on in there. So I've played 11 times so far, half with 6 times with 2, 5 times with 4. Like Love Letter with 2, it's a little, you know, the back and forth doesn't work as well because there's not as much deduction. Often it'll just be like, you know, burying you, you're dead. And that's it with 2 players. And it works kind of the same way with Lost Legacy. But with 4, there's a lot more going on where you try to bounce off other people and you see what's going on. And you have the accumulation of events that happen as you play and you play and you play. So Lost Legacy is a little different than Love Letter in that you win once, you win the game. There are no rounds. You just say you win the game. And so it's a 10-minute game with a single round and a single winner. So it's a little different. There's a little more going on. It's hard to compare right now. Love Letter was a little more immediate because you just had that whole idea. You can grasp it right away. I'm saying I want to deliver this letter, which means I want to hold on to this, and you get this. The Lost Legacy doesn't have a story that ties in quite like Love Letter. Maybe it does, but I haven't seen it yet, and I haven't seen it. But the gameplay is all similar in terms of what you're trying to do. One other aspect to the game is that you have 2 identical decks here. As you might expect, you can mix and match. So I can take all the 8s out of this deck and put them in this deck. Or I can decide I'm going to use the 1, 3, 5, 7X from this and all the even numbers from this and mix them all together. Or the rules say you can shuffle everything together except remove 1 Lost Legacy and then play with up to 6 people just with this fat deck that now you've got all sorts of things on. And you're going to have 6 7s and 6 8s and 6 X's and 2 1s and 2 2s. And so it matters a lot more now what you're going to hold at the end of the game because if suddenly there's a second 2 in there. So holding a 2 doesn't necessarily mean you get an early guess. Over there you have a roundup of Lost Legacy, which sold out immediately at Tokyo Game Market and I believe is not available currently from the publisher One Draw. So sorry to tease you about that, but perhaps it'll be coming back in a new edition and come Spiel, come other release, and we'll see the game again. It's not unlikely given the success of Love Letter, but of course I'm making no promises. I actually know nothing about the future of this game, other than that it will be in my game bag the next time I go to the store. So perhaps we'll see it again in the near future. And if not, then there'll be another spin-off on here. It's really interesting to see how this came about, taking that Love Letter system, that simple set of 16 cards, and sort of spinning it in a new direction and playing it a new way. Now, of course, the next one will also have to have double L, the Lana Lang, Lois Lane set up with a 4 and 6 combination. So, Limb Losers. It's about amputations. That's what it's going to be. I look forward to checking it out.